You don't want success. The truth you avoid. You say you want success, but you don't. Not really. You want the result. You don't want the requirement. And those are not the same thing. Success is not something you get. It is something you live daily through behavior, through standards, through actions that don't adjust to how you feel. And that is where you stop. You stop at the part that demands something from you, because it is easier to want something than to become someone. It is easier to imagine the outcome than to live the process. So you stay there in the idea, in the plan, in the intention, and you tell yourself that you are moving forward, but you are not. You are staying comfortable. That is the truth. You don't chase success. You protect comfort. Every day in small decisions, you choose what is easy instead of what is required. You choose what feels good instead of what moves you forward. You choose what you are used to instead of what would change you. And then you say, I want more. But your behavior says something else. Your behavior says, I want to stay the same. Because staying the same is comfortable. It is predictable. It does not demand anything new from you. You don't have to think differently. You don't have to act differently. You don't have to become someone else. And that is what you are protecting. Not your future, your comfort. Because your future requires something from you. It requires discipline. It requires consistency. It requires standards that your current life does not meet. And that gap between where you are and what is required is what you avoid. Not because you don't see it, because you do. You know when you are not doing enough. You know when you are avoiding. You know when you are choosing easy over necessary. That moment is the truth. Not what you say, not what you plan. What you do when it matters. And most of the time, you don't act. You hesitate. You delay. You replace action with something easier, and then you explain it. You justify it. You tell yourself, I will do it later. I just need more time. I am getting ready. But none of that changes anything. Because preparation without execution is just delay. And delay is how you stay the same. That is the pattern. You don't fail, you delay. You don't quit, you postpone. You don't say no to success. You just never fully say yes. And that is why nothing changes. Because partial effort creates partial results. Inconsistent action creates inconsistent outcomes. And your life is reflecting that. Not what you want, what you repeat. That is who you are. Not your intentions, not your goals. Your behavior. Repeated and right now. Your behavior is showing something clearly. You don't want success the way you think you do. Because if you did, you would act differently. You would operate at a higher standard. You would remove the excuses. You would stop negotiating with yourself. You would do what is required, whether you feel like it or not. But you don't. And that is the truth. Not comfortable, but accurate. There is a moment you keep avoiding, a very specific moment when you know exactly what you should do and you don't do it. That moment is the truth. Not what you say, not what you plan. That moment where you hesitate, where you delay, where you choose something easier, that is where your life is decided. And it happens every day. You feel it, you see it, and you ignore it. Because acting in that moment requires something from you. Focus, discipline, effort. And instead of stepping into it, you step away. And then later you tell yourself a different story. I will do it tomorrow. I just needed a break. It wasn't ready yet. But you were. You just didn't act. And that is the pattern. You protect what is holding you back. You don't just stay comfortable. You protect it. That is the part you don't admit. You think comfort is something that happens to you. It's not. It's something you defend every day in your decisions, in your reactions, in the way you respond. When something requires more from you, because the moment something challenges you, you don't step into it. You hesitate. You slow down. You start thinking. Not because you need to think, because you are protecting your routine, protecting your habits, protecting your current level, because your current level feels safe. You know how to operate there. You know what to expect. You know how to stay in control. And control feels comfortable. So anything that threatens that feels like a problem, even if it is growth, even if it is opportunity, even if it's exactly what you need, you still resist it because growth is unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels uncomfortable. So instead of stepping forward, you step back, you delay, you question, you tell yourself, this isn't the right time. I need to think about it. I am not ready yet. That sounds reasonable. That sounds smart. But it is not. It is protection. You are not being careful. You are being comfortable. Different words, same behavior. And because it sounds logical, you believe it. You convince yourself that you are doing the right thing, that you are being strategic, that you are preparing, but nothing changes. That is how you know. If nothing changes, you are protecting something, and what you are protecting is your comfort. The system you built. You have built a system, not intentionally, but consistently. A system of habits, a system of decisions, a system of behavior that keeps you exactly where you are. And that system works. It works perfectly. It keeps your life predictable. It keeps your effort controlled. It keeps your discomfort low. It keeps your standards manageable. And every time something challenges that system, you don't change it. You defend it. You explain why things are the way they are. You justify why you are not doing more. You normalize where you are. That is how the system survives. Not because it is strong, because you keep choosing it. You repeat the same thinking, the same patterns, the same level, and over time, that becomes automatic. You don't even question it anymore. You don't see it as a problem. You see it as normal, and normal is what keeps you stuck. Identity protection. You are not protecting your schedule. You are protecting your identity, the version of you that operates at this level, the version of you that does not push consistently, that does not execute at a high standard, that does not demand more from itself. Because if you change that, everything changes. Your habits, your time, your priorities, your standards, and that shift feels uncomfortable because now you don't get to do what you feel like doing. You do what is required, and that requires discipline. That requires consistency. That requires pressure. And most people don't want that. They want the result. Without the requirement, they want success without changing who they are. And that is why they stay the same. The truth. You don't lack opportunity. You lack willingness. Willingness to be uncomfortable. Willingness to operate differently. Willingness to let go of whom you have been. Because who you have been is easy. It is predictable. It is comfortable. But it doesn't produce more. It maintains. And if you protect that version of you, nothing changes. Not your habits, not your results, not your life. Because you keep choosing the same thing. Comfort, repeatedly. You don't even notice how often you do this. You defend your current life automatically. Someone pushes you, you resist. Something challenges you, you hesitate. An opportunity shows up, you question it. Not because it is wrong, because it requires more from you. And instead of rising to meet it, you bring it down to your level. You adjust your expectations. You lower the standard. You make it easier so you can stay where you are. And that feels normal. It's not. It's protection. The cost you don't see until it's too late. Comfort feels safe. That is why you trust it. It does not challenge you. It does not expose you. It does not force you to change. And because of that, it feels harmless. But it is not. Comfort is expensive. You just don't pay for it right away. That is why you keep choosing it. Because the cost is delayed. You choose comfort today, nothing happens. You delay something important, nothing happens. You avoid pressure, nothing happens. So your mind tells you, it is fine. I will fix it later. This isn't a big deal, but it is. You just don't feel it yet, because what you are losing is not immediate. It is gradual. Every time you choose comfort, you lose something. You lose momentum. You lose urgency. You lose discipline. You lose progress. Not all at once, but over time. And that is how people fall behind. Not through failure, through comfort. Repeated, daily. You don't wake up one day and realize you failed. You wake up one day and realize you did not move. That is the difference. And that realization is heavy because deep down you know you could be further. You know you have been capable of more. You know you have had time and you didn't use it. Not fully, not seriously, not consistently. That is the cost. Not what you lost, what you never built. There is something else you are not seeing. You think you can catch up later. You think you will make up for lost time. You think at some point you will lock in and fix everything. But that moment does not come because the way you live today becomes the way you live tomorrow and the next day and the next day. You don't suddenly become disciplined. You don't suddenly become focused. You don't suddenly change your standards. You repeat them. That is how identity works. That's how your life is built. So when you say, I will fix it later, what you are really saying is, I will keep repeating this and expect a different result. And that never happens. That is why people stay stuck for years. Not because they can't change, because they keep waiting for a moment that never comes. And while they wait, time keeps moving. Opportunities pass. Energy drops. Focus fades. And eventually it gets harder. Not easier. That is the part no one wants to accept. It does not stay the same. It compounds, either forward or backward. And right now, if you are choosing comfort, it's moving in the wrong direction. Time is moving without you. Time does not stop. It does not wait. It does not slow down because you are comfortable. It keeps moving every day, whether you act or not. And while you stay the same, time keeps going. Opportunities move, people move, the world moves, and you don't. That is how you fall behind. Not because you can't keep up, because you don't move. You delay, you wait, you tell yourself, I still have time. But time is not something you have. It's something you use or waste. And every day you choose comfort, you are spending it without getting anything back. That is the cost. The gap. There is a version of you that you can see, a version that is more disciplined, more focused, more consistent, more serious. You have thought about it, you have imagined it, you have felt it, but you are not living it. And that creates something, a gap between who you are and who you could be. And that gap grows every time you choose comfort, because that version of you does not choose easy. That version executes. That version follows through. That version does what is required, and you don't. Not consistently, and that is why the gap stays and grows. You think you have time. That's the biggest lie. You think that you can keep doing this and fix it later. You think at some point you'll suddenly become disciplined. You'll suddenly become focused. Suddenly change everything. But that moment never comes. Because the way you live today becomes the way you live tomorrow. You don't suddenly change your life. You repeat it. And while you are repeating it, time is moving. Opportunities are closing. Energy is dropping. And it gets harder, not easier. That is the part you don't see. The longer you stay comfortable, the harder it becomes to change. The real cost. The real cost of comfort is not what you lose today. It's what you never become. It's the life you don't build. It's the version of you that never shows up because you stayed where it was, easy, and over time that becomes permanent. Not because it had to, because you allowed it, through repetition, through comfort, through choosing what is easy over what matters. And that's the truth, not comfortable, but real. You don't actually want it. You say you want success, but your behavior says something else. If you really wanted it, it would show in your actions daily. Not sometimes, not when you feel like it. Consistently, because that is what wanting something looks like. It's not words. It's not intention. It's behavior. And your behavior is clear. You hesitate, you delay. You choose easy over necessary. That's not lack of ability. That's lack of willingness. You are not confused. You are avoiding. You are not waiting. You are delaying. You are not preparing. You are protecting comfort. Different words, same reality. If you wanted it, you would accept the requirement. You would accept the pressure. You would accept the repetition. You would accept doing things you don't feel like doing, without negotiation, without excuse, without delay. But you don't. And that's the truth. Not what you say, what you do. Your life reflects your standards. Not your goals, not your plans, your standards. And right now, your standards are comfortable. That's why your life looks the way it does. Not because you can't do more, because you won't. Consistently. Stop pretending. At some point, you must stop pretending. Stop saying you want something that your behavior does not support. Stop calling it effort when it's inconsistent. Stop calling it progress when nothing is changing. Because until you are honest about that, nothing shifts. Decide what you actually want. So now it's simple. Decide what you want. Not what sounds good. Not what you say. What you are willing to live. Because you can't have both. You can't keep comfort and expect change. You can't stay the same and expect something different. That's not how it works. It never has. So decide. Do you want comfort or do you want results? Because your actions are already answering that question. Every day, you don't need more time. You don't need more information. You don't need a better plan. You need to choose and then act on that choice immediately, not later, not tomorrow, now, because later is where nothing happens. That's where everything stays the same. And if everything stays the same, so does your life. So this moment matters more than you think, because what you do next is not small. It is a pattern, and that pattern becomes your life. So decide, then prove it. This is where it changes. This is where it changes. Not when you feel ready, not when everything is perfect. Right here, in what you do next. Because this moment is not small. It's the start of a pattern. And that pattern becomes your life. So whatever you do after this, you are building something. Either the same life or a different one. Thank you. God bless you. Transforming people's lives. The Kingdom Sanctuary of Eden and Outreach Ministries. With our clothing bins all over, we're collecting clothes and shoes and giving it out to all in the communities, in the cities, and all over the world. Wherever there is a need, the Kingdom Sanctuary of Eden is there to fulfill it. Please continue all your donations, whether it be clothes, food, shoes, or monetary donations, so we can take care of God's people all over the world. The donation starts with you. Let's build the kingdom together.